You're on.
Stand back and record me. All right, so your beginning of your pre-trip inspection is you're going to look underneath the vehicle for any fluids, which is an immediate sign of something's leaking, which says I need to open up the hood of the vehicle and further inspect. Aside from that, we've already opened the hood, so how's it showing up as far as quality here?
Quality looks pretty good.
Okay, so your first step is, I always say start where you stand, which is your wheel and anything attached to the wheel, essentially.
Okay.
So underneath the hub cap is the hub oil seal. As I've showed you before, you don't actually have to remove the cap. You just have to point it out. Hub oil level, or it's not the hub oil seal, but there's a hub oil cap, a plug in there that holds the spindle lubricant in place. So you just notate or talk about that. Not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, not leaking. Your lug nuts, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. No rust trails, etc. You don't have to take off the caps. Again, you just have to point it out.
Okay.
Your rim, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. No welds. A weld is an automatic disqualification of the tire and the rim. Has to come off. The tire itself, 4/32 tread depth up front. Tire not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. No slashes, gashes, bulges in the tire. No belt slippage. It's not, it's everything looks even and in order on the tire itself.
Okay.
Air hose. Put your hand on it and move it back and forth. It's kind of dirty right now, but just say not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. No dry rot.
Okay.
Air brake chamber. Put your hand on it and I have to wash this thing off. That's gross. Not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, which I've caught plenty of those over the past few years where they are broken and it can be a problem. Brake system is just like on your car. You got your rotor, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Caliper, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. And your brake pads, which you really can't see, you just have to point to them. Not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Right. Proper thickness, which I want to say is like 11-30 seconds that they'll tell you that's in the book. I forget exactly. Once I got the wheel done, I like to move up top. It's just myself. Coolant reservoir, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, not leaking. You can see at the sight glass here that there's coolant in. You can see it actually shaking in there. Yep. There is actually coolant there. That actually is almost to the point where you have to fill it up a little bit, but it's not bad as long as you can see it.
Okay.
Windshield washer reservoir. Luckily, it actually says it right on the cap, so you can, remember that. Mm-hmm. Not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, not leaking. Engine oil dipstick. Not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, not leaking. You don't have to remove it, but you just say that you'd pull it out, check to make sure that there was oil present on the dipstick, so you know that the engine can run properly.
So I would pull it out for them?
You don't have to.
You don't?
You do not have to. You just have to point it out and say what you would do.
Okay.
Power steering reservoir, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, not leaking. Power steering hoses, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, not leaking. Steering shaft, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, not leaking, but whatever. Steering union, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Steering gear box, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, not leaking. It does hold power steering fluid. If it was leaking, then your reservoir would not be at the proper operating levels. Pitman arm, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Drag link, let's get this flashlight on. Drag link, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Your steering knuckle, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Your spindle, which you can't see because it's inside the wheel. You just state not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. I think as far as being able to be aware that your spindle is broken, your wheel might just fall off potentially.
Right.
Axle, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Back in here, the steering tie rod is actually listed as steering rod or tie rod in the book, so I just say steering tie rod. Not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Front leaf spring mount, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Leaf spring, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Saddle mount, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. U-bolts, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Shock absorber, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Rear spring mount, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. And again, it's a matter of more or less pointing to the items.
Okay.
Again, like you can't see the brake pads, but you just have to point out that that's what you're looking
To
for.
the location.
Right.
Right.
You know, there is a special tool that highway patrolmen they walk around with, and they can get in there and gauge it and everything like that. We don't have those.
Okay.
We just have to be able to give it a visual.
Okay.
So there's your fluids, your steering, your suspension, your tire. Only engine components that you can see on this side, which is, first one back in here is your air compressor. Gear driven, not belt driven. You have to notate that, or during the test, you have to say that. Gear driven air compressor. You have your power steering pump. Again, you can just follow the hose down to where it is. You can see it kind of, but you really, it's just back down in there. Not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, not leaking.
Okay.
Starter, also behind the frame rail, kind of out of view. You just say starter, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, behind frame rail. Can't see. You have to crawl underneath it, and we're not doing that. So that's pretty much everything for this side. So engine cavity continues on the other side.
Do the coolant reservoirs have an overflow feature?
I think,
That
the
they'll-
actual cap itself is the overflow feature, that if it gets so hot, it'll actually spew out the cap. I think. We'd have to confirm that with Scott.
Okay.
But that doesn't have an overflow like a normal vehicle.
Like it doesn't shoot it out the bottom or
I
anything?
don't think so.
Well, once when Brandon and I were out, it did. It started shooting.
There might be.
Okay,
Or,
just
He
curious.
might have just actually had a coolant leak that day.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure it's been fixed by then, but
It's in the shop right now.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the reasons it's bad. So AC compressor up top here. It's one of the things most people miss on this side because this
the
airline
air intake.
is air intake is kind of obstructing view. So AC compressor up top here, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely.
Okay.
Alternator, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Water pump, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, not leaking. It is a water pump. It does move water. Serpentine belt, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. You actually want to put your hand on here and just give it a little tug. You don't want any more than 3/4 inch play. No slashes, tears, missing teeth. It's not, it's guiding properly on the pulleys.
Right.
Whatever, just notating something about its condition. So that you don't have to talk about anything suspension on this side. Anything you do on one side, you don't have to do on the other, unless
Okay.
you get side-specific stuff. Moving on, windshield wipers, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely.
You have to hit it a couple times. It's good. Yeah.
Good, yeah. Windshield, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely.
Okay.
5 amber over cab marker lights, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Side view mirrors, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Side view mirror mount, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Front mud flap, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Your door opens and closes, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Don't really have to talk about the batteries. For some odd reason, I guess if there's no batteries, the vehicle doesn't move, and they're not worried about it moving down the interstate because it's not moving. Again, same thing with the air tanks. If they didn't exist, you wouldn't be. If they weren't there, you wouldn't be going anywhere.
Okay.
Air fan, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Corner amber marking reflective tape, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Front corner amber marker light, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Drive shaft, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Unions are free of debris. The rear tire, kind of the same concepts. You're talking about your this hasn't hub oil seal. It's a little bit different up front. So you say hub oil seal, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, not leaking. Tire tread depth is 2/32 here. There is a spot on the test where it talks about spacers or bud spacers on the rear tires. This has a uni-hub system. It pulls the rims directly together. There's no spacers. So you just want to say that so they don't think you forgot about the spacers. You know there's no spacers. The suspension system behind the tire, which is difficult to get back in there. instead of a leaf spring, you have a control arm. So what would look like the leaf spring is actually a control arm. Otherwise, you do have a rear control arm mount, which is similar to the spring mount up front. In the back, you have the airbags or bellows, which you can hit the dump switch as you've used on trucks, and you drop the air out. So you just have your bellows, which you can kind of see back here. Not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, not leaking. The upper and lower bellow mounts, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Rear shock absorber, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Brake system's the same. Caliper, rotor, brake pad, air brake chamber, air hose. All those are the same thing. You just have to point out. He's not going to curl on the ground with you.
So I will point it on the back.
You have to point it out in the back as well, yes. But
Gotcha.
It's the same components.
Right.
Mud flap, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Now, here's the fun, dirty part. Actually, you can probably see better over here. So, on the torque converter there, up on the top left, you see there's like a plate where there's a bar mounted to it. If you come down here, you can see that there's actually a bar that crosses over from the torque converter. That is the torque arm. Not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely.
All right.
It just balances out the torque of the vehicle. It wants to turn one way from the torque, and that keeps it balanced. So that's just one of it is on the test.
Okay.
Upper, rear, left, red, marker, light, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Rear, driver's side, red, reflective tape, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. You have your two rear red brake or reverse lights, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Your white reverse lights, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. 5 rear over box red marker lights, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. 2 rear reflective red tape, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Your door, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Door handle, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Rear catwalks, including ramp, steps, and bumper, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. License plate, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Some of these things are not 100% necessary, but it's some. I've heard different views from different people that give the test saying that they want to hear that, and other people, they don't care. So it's just like
best to have it.
Better to know it than not know it.
Sure.
2 rear safety handles, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Passenger side red rear marker light, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Passenger side rear reflective red tape, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Don't have to talk about the tire, already did that. Side door catwalk steps, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Side door safety handle, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Side door, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Locked, sealed properly. Side door safety latch, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Exhaust system, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. No soot marks, which would indicate there's a leak and the system not functioning properly.
Okay.
Passenger side amber reflective tape, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Passenger side over box amber marker light, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Diesel exhaust fluid tank, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, not leaking. Fuel tank side steps, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Fuel tank itself, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, not leaking. Fuel tank cap, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, not leaking. Passenger side door, locked. Oh, I hate that. Passenger door, you don't really have to talk about opening and closing. You can, just, it doesn't hurt. One thing you want to remember when you're underneath here, or when you're on the side, is you don't have to reach between the guy's legs. Pull out your safety bag here, and you must show him air gauge. It's pretty much all he needs to see in there.
Okay.
Air gauge. You can also show that you have cable ties and terminal kit. At any point in time, whether it be in cab or out of cab, Just remember to talk about, you're supposed to talk about fuses. We don't actually have fuses. We have a breaker, like circuit breakers.
Okay.
Not accessible for us. If you pop a circuit breaker, Scott's coming out to disassemble part of the truck. Like it's a project.
Okay.
That's a bad day.
Right.
You also need to show him your safety triangles, that there has to be 3. Now these are DOT requirements. Like you have, if they're not in the vehicle you're taking, he won't even let you take the test. Fire extinguisher, you can point out not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, but you can't see it real well from here. You do have to say that it is charged, so you could do that when you're sitting in the driver's side seat. Some vehicles have them over here, some over there. It just depends.
Right.
So, that's broken. At this point, before you get into the vehicle to do your actual in-cab, you're going to tell him that you're going to check your lights. He will stay outside of the vehicle. You will go in and you will tell him each individual light you're checking. Headlights, brights, left and right blinker, hazards, that's in the front, and then you have him go to the back of the vehicle, do the same thing, check your brake lights by just pushing on the brakes, turn your lights on, it's going to turn on, it's also going to turn on all your marker lights because he's going to see that those are functioning, but that's just the parking switch on, so he checks all those, your hazards, your left and right blinker, and then you can put the vehicle into reverse, and that'll turn on the reverse lights to show that those are functioning as well. So, we'll go over that again in cab. So go ahead and hop in down your side.
Right.
Let's see how level we are here. Good. Okay, so at what point in time you want to do the air brake test is up to you. I recommend that, being as I've seen a lot of people fail it, get it out of the way, like get in the truck and just get it done, and then do everything else afterwards. Otherwise, you might forget something. So, step 1, air brake test. You're going to make sure you're either chalked or on level ground. Where you're at over there, you're pretty much on level ground, or you have enough room. If you rolled a little bit, it wouldn't be a big deal. Make sure you are in neutral. It's never a bad idea to just automatically put your foot on the clutch. You can release the brake. That if you forget to push the button in and you go through the whole test, as long as you don't say test completed, you can say, oops, I messed up, and you can go back, do the whole thing over again, and make sure you push the button in. So it's not a freak out moment. It's like, okay, just gather yourself, take a deep breath, and go, I did that wrong, I'm going to do it right. He's not going to mark you off because it's a pass or fail. It's not a points lost, points gained. It's a pass or fail, so you have to do it right. And you should at least have to show him that you did it right. And the same goes for anything you do. The pre-trip's not done until you've done everything outside, everything inside, air brake included, and then you've said, I have completed my pre-trip inspection. If you want to sit there for a few minutes and go, did I forget something? And you can mentally go through, and I did this, that. Oh, crap, I didn't say anything about the steering. Sorry, we got to hop back out real quick. I got to go over the steering components with you. You can do that. There's no defined order written down by anyone. It's just that you know what you're talking about, what you're looking for. And that may or may not depend on whether you pass or fail, but it's better to get extra points than less points.
All
right, so step 1, make sure you're in level ground. Push the yellow button. Like that is, I mean, it's yellow for a reason. It's to get your attention, to say, hey, I'm here, I do something.
Right.
You have to have your key to your accessory. So whether you turn the key on or push the button first, doesn't matter. Turn your key on. Your gauges are registering that there is air in the tanks. Bring your seat up to a comfortable position. Let's see if I can get this thing out of the way here. So yeah, if you want to try and record the gauges as I'm doing what I'm doing here. So primary brake, or your primary brake air chamber, secondary brake air chamber, and your brake application gauge. So your first one you're working off is your brake application. Push your brake pedal down and you saw the needle pop up there, what you're checking for is a loss of air pressure no greater than 3 psi in 1 minute. Realistically, you shouldn't see a loss of any air pressure in the vehicle we're going to send you because you're going to have one of the brand new trucks, probably Lawler's truck. Yeah. He may or may not ask you to sit and wait for a full minute. Sometimes he says, okay, go ahead and move on. So if, otherwise you just sit, watch the clock, wait for a minute. Then you can release the pressure. Next, you start fanning off your air by just pushing in and up and down on the brake gauge. Now, as you see the air starting to leave the tanks, you are looking specifically that your alarms go off at 60 psi for both of these, which there you are, 60 psi, secondary brake air, lights on, a couple more pumps, and the primary is going to end up coming on 60 psi. So that's what they want to hear. They have to hear you say at 60 psi, that alarm comes on. Right. Even if it looks like it's slightly off, just say 60 psi. Okay. Continue fanning off your air pressure until the yellow button pops. You don't even have to look at this gauge anymore. Now it's supposed to go off somewhere around 23. It was like, and there was 23 psi on the dot for the secondary air, and it was about 27 at the primary, but is enough loss of psi. If at that point you go, oh crap, the button didn't pop because you didn't push it in, just like I said, tell them you messed up. You're going to start over again. At that point, you would just turn the vehicle back on as it sits. Make sure you do a safe start, though, which is always clutch in, make sure you're neutral, foot on brake, and then start your vehicle. Now, assuming that I didn't mess up, which I didn't, the button popped, everything worked properly. I'm now just building my air pressure back up because I have to check both the parking brake and the service brake to confirm that they work. So you can take your foot off the clutch, you're in neutral, your brakes are engaged, you're not going to go anywhere. And you can, being that this is gear driven, just rev your engine up a little bit, get your air pressure building up a little bit quicker.
Okay.
Alright, so at this point, you don't have to have your seatbelt on quite yet. Clutch in neutral, foot on brake. Oh, actually, no, we want to leave that on first. We don't really mess around with first gear, as I told you last time. We can work with second gear. Put yourself in second gear, parking brakes engaged, and you're just going to let out you can keep your foot like a little bit on the brake, not too much, and you're just going to slowly let off the clutch. Where you can feel the torque of the vehicle. Once you felt that, you know the parking brake works, it's engaged. Check your service brake. Push in the parking brake, put yourself in second gear, go forward, show that the service brake works. Brake and clutch at the same time. A little bit there. So your air brake test is done, now you have to finish the in cap. So you can leave the vehicle running, it's going to be winter, it is winter, it's going to be cold. Go through your gauges, pop this back down again. Voltmeter or ammeter, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, showing vehicle at normal operating range for battery, which is like 14.3, something like that. Water temperature gauge, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, is showing a gradual rise in temperature as the vehicle is running. Primary air brake gauge, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Secondary air brake gauge, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Oil pressure gauge, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, showing the oil at normal operating pressures. Brake application gauge, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. RPMs, RPM gauge, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely, showing the vehicle at a resting RPM range. Speedometer, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Fuel gauge, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Diesel exhaust tank gauge, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Lights, switch works, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. So one click up is your parking brakes. That turns on your overcab lights and just your parking lights. Next button up pops on your headlights. At this point is when you need to check your indicator lights. So you're not going to have an indicator light on now with just the lights. But, so you pull the switch for your hazards. Make sure that you can see them. Click your right blinker. Click your left blinker. Turn on your brights. That's all your indicator lights. Depending, you'll be taking this test during the daytime, so you can realistically, you should always have your parking lights on. It just has them on. It's always good. Don't have to worry about your cruise control. Not a big deal with that. Radio, not a big deal. These are just empties. Your horn, I'm not going to blast Scott out in here. Make sure the button's down. Click once, that's your regular horn. Push the button up, that's your air horn. Windshield wipers has to shoot fluid and work, which it does. Your air, how do you know it works? Turn it on. Do you feel air moving through the vents? Kind of. There it is. There it is. So that's how you know the fan works, and you need it because you need to be able to defrost, you know, your windshield. And you could just like check each station, you know, just make sure the switch moves, your AC button comes on, etc. You're not gonna blast the heat. You're not gonna blast the air conditioning. You might have it on a little bit more. Let's see here. So at this point, you could also look at you could check to see that your fire extinguisher is properly charged. You know, okay. And it's easier right here. Put foot on clutch. Check all the stations of the shifter. Every single one. Even though you're only going to use second through 6, you're not going to use first. You still need to make sure it goes into all of them.
Sure.
Let's see here. Seat belts, not cracked, broken, missing, mounted securely. Works properly. At that point, you'd probably be buckling up and just about ready to do your backing up test, which then he'll be getting out of the vehicle again and instructing you how to do, you know, he's got to sit outside and watch you do it. So yeah, that's your pre-trip inspection.
All right.
You don't have to record anymore.
20 is a half hour.
Told you.
I want to check.